These are the most dominant basketball performances you've ever seen, and they're coming from an 18-year-old who stands taller than every player in WNBA history. Zhang Ziyu is 7 feet 3 inches of pure basketball dominance, and she's already making WNBA stars look like children on the court. Let me tell you exactly what happened when this Chinese basketball phenomenon stepped onto a professional court for the first time. January 4, 2026, Shandong Six Stars versus Hebei Wind Power. Zhang Ziyu's professional debut. In just 13 minutes of playing time, she dropped 15 points and grabbed 6 rebounds, leading her team to a crushing 106-93 victory. But that was just the warm-up act. 9 days later, Zhang faced off against legitimate WNBA talent. First up was Kalani Brown, one of the most feared defensive players in the WNBA, the 7th overall pick from 2019, a former All-American from Baylor University. Zhang walked onto that court and proceeded to score 7 points on an efficient 3 for 4 shooting in just 13 minutes. She added a rebound and a block for good measure. Brown, who had built her reputation on shutting down elite players, couldn't do much except watch this teenager tower over her. The real statement game came 6 days after that. January 13, 2026. Zhang Ziyu versus Kamilla Cardoso, the Chicago Sky's prized rookie, the 3rd overall pick in the 2024 WNBA draft, a former All-American from the University of South Carolina who had dominated college basketball. This was supposed to be the test. This was supposed to show whether Zhang could really compete against elite talent. Zhang put up 10 points, 2 rebounds, and 3 blocks in just 14 minutes, shooting an impressive 4 for 6 from the field. Her team defeated the defending champions Guangdong, and Cardoso, one of the most promising young centers in women's basketball, found herself looking up at someone who made even her feel small. These weren't fluky performances. These were statements. Zhang Ziyu had officially arrived, and she was rewriting what we thought we knew about women's basketball. To understand just how unprecedented this is, you need to know where Zhang came from. Born on May 1, 2007, in Jinan, Shandong Province, Zhang was destined for basketball greatness. Both her parents were basketball players, and her mother, Yu Ying, actually played for the China national team. When your mom represented her country, and you inherit genes that make you taller than a refrigerator, basketball becomes less of a choice and more of an inevitability. Zhang started playing basketball at age 5, which sounds normal until you realize what was happening to her body. By 1st grade, she had already reached 5 feet 2 inches tall. Think about that for a moment. Most 1st graders barely hit 4 feet. Zhang was already the height of an average adult woman. By 6th grade, she had grown to 6 feet 9 inches. She wasn't just tall for her age, she was approaching the height of professional basketball players while she was still learning multiplication tables. The basketball world got its first real glimpse of Zhang when she was just 14 years old at the U15 National Basketball League tournament. Standing at what was reported as 7 feet 5 inches, she faced opponents who were literally more than 2 feet shorter than her. The mismatch was so extreme that videos of her playing went viral worldwide. People couldn't believe what they were watching. Here was a teenager who looked like she was playing against elementary school kids, even though she was competing against elite youth players her own age. In that tournament, Zhang put up numbers that seemed like they belonged in a video game. 42 points, 25 rebounds, and 6 blocks in the finals. The basketball wasn't even a basketball in her hands. Zhang wasn't content to just be a curiosity, though. She was determined to prove that she was more than just height. In 2022, at age 15, she started putting up performances that showed she had real basketball skills to go along with her ridiculous physical advantages. At the U15 championship, she scored 62 points and grabbed 13 rebounds. 3 weeks later, at the provincial championships, she went for 68 points and 24 rebounds. These weren't just big numbers. They were historically dominant performances that showed Zhang was developing into a complete player. By 2023, competing at the U17 National Championship, Zhang had refined her game even further. In just 26 minutes of playing time, she put up 30 points and 21 rebounds. She was becoming more efficient, more skilled, and somehow even more dominant. International scouts were starting to take notice. This wasn't just a tall player anymore. This was a legitimate basketball prodigy who happened to be absurdly tall. The moment that truly announced Zhang to the global basketball community came in June 2024 at the FIBA Under-18 Women's Asia Cup. This was her first major international competition, and the basketball world was watching to see if she could dominate against higher-level competition from across Asia. Zhang didn't just succeed, she obliterated the competition. Her tournament debut against Indonesia was a masterclass in efficiency, 19 points on perfect 9 for 9 shooting. Against New Zealand, she erupted for 36 points, 13 rebounds, and 4 blocks, while shooting 80% from the field. But the performance that had basketball fans around the world talking came against Japan, when Zhang scored a tournament record 44 points to go along with 14 rebounds. In the finals against Australia, Zhang saved her best for last, dropping 42 points and 14 rebounds. Although China finished as runners-up, Zhang was named tournament MVP, averaging an absolutely absurd 35 points and 12.8 rebounds per game across the entire competition. These numbers weren't coming against weak competition. These were against the best young players from across Asia, including future professional prospects. International media started calling her the Moving Great Wall, a reference to China's most famous landmark, and comparisons to Yao Ming began appearing everywhere. But while Yao was revolutionary for bringing Chinese basketball to the NBA, Zhang represented something even more unprecedented. A woman who was taller and potentially more dominant than almost any player in basketball history. To put Zhang's height in perspective, she officially measures 7 feet 3 inches according to FIBA, though some sources have reported her as tall as 7 feet 5 inches. The previous record holder for tallest player in WNBA history was Margot Didek from Poland, who stood 7 feet 2 inches. Didek was drafted first overall in 1998 and played 11 successful years in the league. But she entered the WNBA at age 24 with a fully developed body and game. Zhang is achieving this level of dominance at just 18 years old, suggesting her ceiling is absolutely limitless. What makes Zhang so terrifying for future opponents isn't just her height, it's how that height combines with legitimate basketball skills. When she made her senior international debut for China in June 2025 against Bosnia and Herzegovina at age 18, she put up 18 points, 7 rebounds, 1 assist, and 1 block in just 12 minutes. She wasn't just using her height as a crutch, she was showing real basketball IQ, court vision, and shot selection. The real test came when Zhang entered professional basketball with the Shandong Six Stars in the Women's Chinese Basketball Association. The WCBA isn't the WNBA, but it features international talent and provides a legitimate stepping stone for players preparing for higher levels of competition. Zhang had already participated in the 2025 WCBA All-Star Game before making her official debut, showing that the league recognized her as a marquee attraction. The fact that WNBA players like Kamilla Cardoso and Kalani Brown were competing in the WCBA during Zhang's rookie season created a perfect laboratory for evaluating her potential. These weren't exhibitions or friendly games. These were legitimate professional competitions where careers and reputations were on the line. Cardoso in particular represented the perfect measuring stick. As the third overall pick in 2024, she was one of the most highly regarded prospects in recent WNBA history. Her college career at South Carolina had been spectacular, and she was expected to be an immediate impact player in the WNBA. For Zhang to not just compete with her, but actually outplay her in their head-to-head matchup sent shockwaves through the basketball community. The performance against Brown was equally impressive from a different perspective. Brown had built her WNBA reputation as a defensive specialist, someone who could neutralize opposing centers through positioning, physicality, and basketball IQ. The fact that Zhang scored efficiently against her while adding a block showed that she could handle physical, defensively minded players who wouldn't be intimidated by her size. What's most remarkable about Zhang's early professional performances is how comfortable she looked. There was no visible adjustment period, no obvious growing pains. She stepped onto professional courts and immediately looked like she belonged. Her shot selection was mature, her positioning was sound, and her efficiency numbers were excellent. In an era where many young players struggle with the transition to professional basketball, Zhang made it look effortless. The basketball analytics tell an even more impressive story. Zhang's field goal percentages in her early professional games were outstanding: 67% against Cardoso, 75% against Brown. These numbers suggest that she's not just using her height to overpower smaller players, she's making smart decisions about when and where to shoot. Her block numbers show that she's providing legitimate defensive value beyond just her intimidation factor. But the most telling statistic is her playing time. In each of her early games against WNBA talent, Zhang played between 13 and 14 minutes. These weren't garbage time minutes or ceremonial appearances, these were meaningful minutes in competitive games. Her coaches trusted her in crucial situations, and she delivered every time. The international basketball community is now faced with a fascinating question. What happens when Zhang Ziyu enters the WNBA? Current expectations suggest she could make the transition as early as 2027, when she'll be 19 or 20 years old. If her current development trajectory continues, she could enter the league as one of the most dominant prospects in its history. The WNBA has never seen anything like Zhang. Didek was incredibly successful during her career, but she was more of a defensive specialist and defense. Imagine trying to game plan against a player who can score over any defender without jumping, who can rebound over anyone on the court, and who can block shots just by standing near the basket. Traditional basketball strategy starts to break down when one player has such an overwhelming physical advantage combined with legitimate skills. Zhang's early performances against actual WNBA players suggest she can hang at that level. She's not just surviving, she's thriving. Her efficiency numbers, her basketball IQ, and her comfort level all indicate that she's ready for elite competition. The fact that she's accomplishing this at 18 years old when most players are just entering college suggests her ceiling is astronomical. What makes Zhang's story even more compelling is how she's handling the pressure and attention. Being dubbed the moving Great Wall and constantly compared to Yao Ming could overwhelm a teenager, but Zhang seems to thrive under scrutiny. Her performances in big games and international competitions show that she has the mental fortitude to match her physical gifts. The broader implications of Zhang's emergence extend beyond just basketball. She represents a new generation of Chinese athletes who are competing at the highest levels of global sports. Her success could inspire young girls across China to take up basketball, potentially creating a pipeline of talent that could make China a women's basketball powerhouse. For the WNBA, Zhang represents both an opportunity and a challenge. Her arrival would generate massive international attention and could help the league expand its global reach, particularly in the enormous Chinese market. But her dominance could also raise competitive balance concerns. How do you maintain competitive integrity when one player has such an overwhelming advantage? Zhang Ziyu's journey from a freakishly tall child to professional basketball dominance reads like something out of a sports movie, except it's all real. At 18 years old, she's already rewriting the record books and making established professionals look ordinary. Her early performances against WNBA talent suggest that she's not just ready for the next level, she's ready to revolutionize it. As she continues to develop her skills and gain experience, the basketball world is watching with fascination and maybe a little fear. Zhang Ziyu isn't just tall, she's a generational talent who combines unprecedented physical gifts with legitimate basketball ability. Her story is just beginning, but she's already changed what we think is possible in women's basketball. The most terrifying part for future opponents? She's still growing, still learning, and still getting better. Zhang Ziyu has already destroyed WNBA rivals in her professional debut, and she's just getting started.